So our next portion of Chapter 2 brings us here to pages 48 through essentially 54 in the text, and that is inputs. And the type of input you have has an impact on just how it is that you interact with the computer. So input is any way for you as a user to demonstrate that you want the computer to take some certain action. So the inputs that we're used to are going to be things like keyboards and mice, right? So on a traditional desktop, you need a keyboard to type, you need a mouse to click around. On a phone, you need a virtual keyboard, right? So you can either type or swipe your way around on your phone to be able to give it your whatever text input would be. Other kinds of input are things like microphones. So your phones actually have really good microphones on them now. Some of these podcasts are just recorded using the microphone on the bottom of an iPad, which is essentially just a stretched out phone, right? So microphones give you a way to interact with the computer in a way that kind of obscures you from having to type something, but you're still providing some means for the machine to be able to interact with you. So if you've got Siri, if you've got Google Assistant, if you've got Alexa, or any of those things that are probably talking at us in the background here, all of those things are voice input. We have things like infrared detection. So if you have a motion detector on anything like a Nest thermostat, those are infrared. There's a host of smaller inputs that you probably don't have any real connection to, but you are actually making a physical connection with that computer. Most of these inputs are going to be on things like phones and other devices. I'll call them of a smaller nature. An accelerometer that you use on your phone to let it know that you're moving. A gyroscope that you use on your phone to tell things like pitch and yaw, how far forward and back and left and right it is that you are tipping. Light or proximity sensors, those really are fairly simple, but it's the reason that your phone turns off when you bring it up to your face. A heart rate monitor, that can be in any sort of device. They're baked into phones, they're baked into watches, they're actually baked into special purpose devices that are parts of a computer when you go to a hospital. Things like a fingerprint reader are referred to as biometrics. It's a tangible way to use something like biology in order to affect an input on a machine. So like if you have a Samsung S10, there's a fingerprint reader in the screen. If you have an iPhone, there's a fingerprint reader in some of the older versions under the screen. And all of those are kinds of input. So the core takeaway here is a computer, if it is going to interact with you, now there are computers that have no interactions with people, and that's just fine too. But if you are going to interact with a computer, you need what we see here on pages 48 through 54. You need some sort of input device, a touchscreen, a mouse, a keyboard, a trackpad, etc.